Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Bethany. My pronouns are she, her, and this is my channel where I talk about my knits and any other bits that I feel like. It has been a minute since I recorded because life got in the way because fall is very busy. So rather than a beginning of October update for what I've been working on previously, we're now in the middle of the month. Practically past the middle of the month. So let's get right into it. Let's first talk about what I'm wearing, which is also my very first finished object. This is my third Mender's cardigan by Brienne Moody, and this is knit out of Less Traveled DK in the colorway Forest Floor. I also used a little bit of burgundy sock yarn held double for the cuffs because guess what? I ran out of yarn. So my sleeves are, let's see if I can get it into frame. My sleeves are a little shorter than anticipated. They turned out to sort of be bracelet length, but I actually don't mind that because I have a tendency to push up my sleeves anyway. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, even though, again, this is what happens when you play fast and loose with your gauge. It turned out a slightly different size than anticipated. I have a nice amount of positive ease in my sleeves, and that feels really good. The armholes don't feel too tight, so I don't have awkward shoulder tightness or anything like that. But the body of the sweater, and I will pop up a picture because I'm not going to stand up and show you because I have a very delicate lighting and camera setup right now, so I don't want to disturb anything and have to start over. So the body turned out to have a little more either no ease or negative ease than I anticipated, but it's fine. I actually kind of dig the way it's looking. It turned out a little bit cropped, which I knew would happen anyway, just because of knitting it previously. I do like a cropped length, and then I was working with 3 skeins of yarn, so I could only get so far. So I think it has ended up looking a little bit vintagey, which I actually really, really love. So far though, and I don't know if it's the colorway or the fact that the sleeves are a little bit shorter than normal, or at least at an odd length for me, because I'm usually either definitely 3/4 just past the elbow, or I'm a full length down to the wrist sleeve knitter, and these are somewhere in between. So I don't want to say I'm struggling to find ways to style it, but feels a little weird sometimes when I go to put it on with an outfit. But mostly, again, I just end up pushing the sleeves up anyway. So yeah, here we are. I will maybe try to get up carefully and show you the buttons because the buttons are really cool. Let's see if I can get them in there. Hopefully you can see. They're a little bit sparkly, and they're a gorgeous purpley burgundy color that I thought really went well with the rest of the garment. So I was really pleased to find those. I did have to go and purchase buttons for this. I really tried to initially pick stuff that was out of my stash / my mother's button stash, but didn't work out. Nothing was quite good enough, or I didn't have enough buttons because I needed 6. Of course, I wasn't thinking about that when I was making my buttonholes on the button band. I just did it according to the instructions without thinking about what I had. So here we are. I had to buy new buttons. Oh darn. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing. But let's just move right along in the finished objects category. I suppose for some people this is not a finished object, but I finished knitting these socks and they just need blocking, and then I need to do some duplicate stitch on them. But as far as I'm concerned, they're 95% done, so I'm going to put them in the finished object category. Yeah, I've just decided. So let me just get them here. And I do apologize. I shouldn't apologize, but I did mean to block these before filming, but then life got in the way, didn't happen, and today is my only time to film. So Yes, let's just show you my mostly finished, what I'm calling my Boo Barn socks. But these are the Colorwork Cuff Club from October 2024 by Summerlee. And these, as you can see, are little ghosties with no eyes. And let me explain why. In the pattern, which I will pop up on the screen so that you can see it, the Colorwork incorporates whatever color you're using for the body of the ghost, and then whatever color you're using for the eyes and the mouth on the ghost design. And if you've been here for a minute, you'll have heard me talk about the first time I knit these last year. And I successfully got through the color work using all three colors, like the main color, the ghost color, and then the, we'll call it the eye color. And they didn't fit me. So when I was knitting them this time, I was being very, very conscious of how I was tensioning my color work, using like a half needle size up, like is recommended in the pattern. And I got through, like, I don't want to say the whole thing because that wasn't true. But I got through, like, putting the eyes, like, I got through the colorwork chart row with the eyes in it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pause here and see if I can still get it over my foot. And I couldn't. So it seems that, because up to that point I had been trying it on every couple of rows as I knit the actual little ghosts. And it was fine. My tensioning was okay. So it seemed as though as soon as I was adding in the black yarn for the eyes and the mouth, my tension was just awful at that point. And to be fair, in the chart, you do have to, I don't know what it's called, but your floats are really long, between like stitching with the black for the eyes, and the mouth, while also handling the white and the main color. So I think that's where my actual colorwork tension issue comes from, is adding in like a third color when the floats would end up being really long, and it didn't seem to matter how I tried to catch the floats. So I just decided, to be fair, very early on knitting the first sock, I decided it wasn't worth it. So I ripped that back. That was tedious. My gosh. But I ripped it back and then just knit the whole thing in white, ignoring the instruction for joining the third color. And what I plan to do is go in and just duplicate stitch on the eyes and the mouth after these are blocked. Perhaps after these are blocked. I think I will have an easier time doing that after these are blocked. And then hopefully I will have wearable little ghosty socks before Halloween. That would be super. Halloween season can be all year long, depending on who you are. So if they're not done for Halloween, that's okay. I can still wear them. But yeah, those are just, and here's the other one, just to prove I do have a second sock. Also, the main color knit up really interestingly once I wasn't carrying the colorwork. So the variegated skein from Full Moon Fibers knit up really cool. I really enjoyed that. So, and I think they look great. I think the white ghosts pop really, really well against the variegated yarn, and definitely makes me think that when I go on to do other Colorwork Cuff Club, pairing variegated main color with solid contrast color will be really fun, and I would love to do that because I have a lot of variegated sock skeins that I don't always know what to do with, right? And it's like, of course, theoretically, yes, socks, but wouldn't it be cool to do colorwork socks? So that is it for finished objects, and so let's move on to works in progress. The first one I'll show you, I have made good progress on. I will say that I'm filming this just after the Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend, and I was away with my husband for Thanksgiving, and so we didn't really have like regular life responsibilities, so we were this little kind of mini vacation because we were away from home, so, and it involved some driving there and back, and so I had a lot of knitting time, so hence why the Boo Barn socks are done, and that my whips have gotten lots of attention, plus I have a new cast on. So all that preamble to show you how my, let's go over here, how my Thistlethorn cowl is coming along. Let's just bring it up here. It's still curling at the bottom pretty badly, but I am so pleased with how this is going. The last time I showed it, I was still working flat, and I have now, let's just see if I can turn this around without having it be awful. I have now joined in the round at the back, and I am just working on the length of the actual neck part of the cowl, and I haven't decided yet whether I am simply going to follow along with the instructions for how tall to knit the neck, or whether I will just continue to knit until I run out of one of my yarns, because I have a little less yardage of the color A, which is this one. My poor ball, it had a bit of a thing, it rolled around in the car, and so I had to like fetch it back and like badly wind it back up. Sorry, this is a Spin Cycle dyed in the wool. I believe it's dyed in the wool, whatever their sport weight one is, and the colorway is Nevruary. And then I am just holding it with, I believe it's Luette Gems Sport or DK, forget which one, in the color navy. And I do have less of the Spin Cycle than I do of the Luette. So I would love to use up pretty much all of this, because frankly, what am I going to do with, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 grams of Spin Cycle? Not sure. So I'd rather use it up in one project. But I really, really love how it's coming along. Almost had a disaster. Yeah, the color work is just so cool. And I love how the Spin Cycle has gone around. It is interesting, though, that when I joined for the round, I sort of got this almost very wow, the word just left me. Very defined, almost stripe in the color change. But it is exactly where I joined in the round. So yeah, I just think it's kind of funny. Obviously, that color change was coming up anyway, but I have a feeling that it wouldn't be so demarcated if I was still knitting flat. But you know, whatever, it is what it is. I still love how it's working up. I won't say that I'm jonesing to cast on another one right away, but it does have me like brainstorming yarns to hold together to knit another one. This is a little bit hard on my hands, so I don't know if that's the needle size and the gauge that I'm working at, even though the gauge of this feels really nice. It's not like, it's kind of nice and drapey, because luckily my tension is okay. But like, it maybe could be looser, and maybe that would be easier on my hands. So I did have to take a lot of breaks working on this this past weekend, but I'm really, really pleased with the progress I have made on that one. So maybe by the next time I film, that will also be a finished object. That would be very cool. My next work in progress was not, again, this is me not sticking to a plan. This was not a cast on. This was not a work in progress on my previous video, and it was also not a. It was not a contender in what's next. But I got very, very inspired by, and I forget where I originally saw the colorway, but I saw the one of the, I guess it's seasonal for this year, one of the newer colors that Barocco has come out with for their remix line. And this is Remix Light, and this is Dijon, and it's a wonderful sort of golden, mustardy, yellow, gold. And I really, really like it. It's definitely not my normal color palette. I actually find yellow hard to wear. Even though I think for the most part it looks okay. I think the only shade of yellow that doesn't look great on me is a super pastel, like butter yellow, because I'm so pale that I just feel like it almost blends right in, or makes me look a little bit like I've got jaundice or something. But more saturated yellows look great. But I don't reach for it. But I got very inspired by this particular colorway. And I'll pop a picture up because, of course, influenced by the pattern photo of One for All by Jennifer Parrocinni, who I love. I love her stuff. I've test knitted for her in the past, and have knit a number of her patterns. And so I cast on, like I said, One for All, which is a pullover pattern. And here is my progress so far. It's very bunchy around the bottom, as you can see, because I am using a slightly shorter circular needle than technically what's called for, but I was using my interchangeable sets, and I didn't feel like changing the cord. I just want to be able to like pop the other needle size onto the end when it's time to knit the hem of the garment. But yeah, this had been sort of, I don't want to say barely cast on before we traveled for Thanksgiving, but I had cast on and done my raglan increases and gotten to the point where I had just split for body and sleeves, because I always find that is the most work in a pullover. So I kind of wanted that done before we were going to be traveling. I don't know why, it felt better to like not have to think too hard about what I was knitting on, because then it's just body, right? So yeah, and I'll hold this up a little bit closer, because in the raglan there is this gorgeous cable, and hopefully that is focused okay. And that is really one of the design details that drew me to this particular pattern, and just really got me having some autumnal feels about using this particular shade of yarn and knitting this particular pattern together. So I'm very, very pleased. I'm debating the length. This is always the way. I'm debating the length of the garment, and I've gotten to the point where I could knit another 10 rounds to finish the recommended number of rounds for the length of the body. I'm done all the body increases because there's a gentle bell shape to this garment, so that it's not just straight up and down. It sort of fits your body, makes room for hips if you have them, which I do. Yeah, so all of those increases are done. So now it's just a choice of where I stop and knit the, I believe it's a 2x2 hem, but where I stop for the length of the body in stockinette and knit the hem, which according to the pattern is another 2 inches. And I just don't want it to end up too long, because I find as a short-waisted person, sweaters can very easily start to look very tunicky on me in not an intentional way. I do own sweaters that are nice and long, that basically are a tunic, and I just intentionally have chosen those garments at that particular length because it looks like a tunic, right? I just don't want an accidental tunic. Because I also find that sometimes with my hips, if I stop a garment at a particular spot, it just looks really awkward. like, not necessarily on flattering. I just find that it looks awkward because I'm like, oh, well, it's not here and it's not further down. So just feels like it's that. It's like the sleeves, right? It's a weird in between length. So debating that. So I'm going to try this on a couple more times. And maybe I'll just go right in between and just knit another 5 rounds and then do the hem. And that might be the perfect length. Maybe that's what I need to do. So TBD on that. But again, this is One for All by Jen Parrocinni. And I'm knitting it in Remix Light. And I'm very eager to have the body done and then start on Sleeve Island because I would really like to wear this before fall proper is over. I get that you could wear this any time of year, but it's a very, see, there we go. That looks nice. It is a very autumnal color, and I would love to wear it. You know, ideally I should have been wearing it last weekend, but I can't knit that fast. That would have been fully unreasonable for like peak fall weather. But yes, I'm really looking forward to keep working on this. Hopefully this will also be a finished object when I film next. And my last work in progress is a new cast on, because of course, when you go on a trip, you got to have extra knitting because you never know how much you're going to knit and how much you might finish. And I did finish a pair of socks, so it was like, well, got to cast on another pair of socks. So I have just cast on with a skein of self-striping yarn from Mud Punch, and this is called Zero Fox Given, which I'm like, nice. So yeah, I've made really good progress. I've probably talked about this before, but I love self-striping yarn because it is so motivating for you to keep going, right? It's just, you see this, as soon as you see the stripes starting to appear, you're like, oh, I'll just get to the next one. I'll just do the next one. Because the way this one is dyed, and do I have the label? Oh, I have the label. Cool. Oh, it doesn't say, but I know that on her website, there is sometimes a difference between like the number of rows in each stripe. Sometimes she does them thicker, sometimes she does them thinner. It's basically what I'm trying to say. So this one for me at my gauge is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe it's 5 or 6 rounds per stripe. And it's just so motivating because it's like the stripes aren't too thick, right? So you don't feel like, oh, working on this color forever. So yeah, done the leg, and I have used a contrast color, which actually matches incredibly well. Like, I wanted it to be close, but it matches incredibly well with this sort of mustardy gold stripe. And this is just leftover sock yarn, which I can't currently remember the name of. If I do, I'll pop it down in the description. But that is what I'm using as the contrast for the heel flap and turn. Because I do love a heel flap and turn, even though I know in my previous video I have done short row heel, and that was a cool experience with using the sock tube that I had from Full Moon Fibers, but I just decided not to do that this time. I have the yarn that coordinates really well, so why not use it as the heel color. So, and I don't think I'm going to try to make these match. When I finish the first one, I will just cast on with cast on and keep going with what remains of the skein, and they will be sisters, not twins, cousins, not sisters, however you want to call it. So yeah, this was great car knitting / any other time knitting this past weekend. Okay, that is it for works in progress. Let me just rustle it back in the bag. Okay, so let's talk about what's next, and we will see if I stick to any of these plans. Probably not. So what is still on my what's next list that I talked about in my fall knitting plans video is my Maema cardigan. I talked about that extensively in that video. I'll link that down below or up above. Also the Rosanna cardigan. That is still on my shorter part of my long queue. I have a very long Ravelry queue, but I sort of use the top 10 as like the short list of the menu that I'm going to work from. So those two are still on there. I also really got seriously influenced in the best way by Whitney of Knitted by Whitney. She finished her See My Vest, and I think it was the chunky one that she did. She worked with some bulkier chunky yarn, and she did it in this gorgeous brown honey, almost honey colored yarn, and she's just finished it and it is gorgeous, and I'm like, well, I need that now. But the thing is, I really don't, I have hardly any chunky yarn in my stash, but I do have worsted, and I have seen other folks on podcasts, I think Lock Knits as well, has knit the See My Vest worsted, and it really enjoyed that, and so I too am going to knit the See My Vest worsted. But what I'm going to do, because I also don't have a ton of worsted weight in my stash, is I'm going to hold two yarns together, and this is actually a combination that I have done before. I'll pop a picture up of my, oh, it's going to be over here. It's always over here. I don't know why I point in the other direction. I knit the Gondor vest last year. I think it was last year, but I have had this this finished object for a little bit. And I held Hello Stella Fibers Merino Tweed. This colorway is Season of the Witch. And I held it with, this is Malabrigo lace in cognac. And the lace weight is showing up redder on camera than it is in real life. It's definitely browner in real life. But I held these together to get gauge for the Gondor vest. And it looked really good. So hopefully using these together, I have enough to hit gauge for See My Vest worsted. And it will end up being a probably very cropped vest. But we'll see. I also have some bits of brown like leftover yarn from previous projects. So like if I have to use that for the neckline or the hem, I'm fully happy to do that as long as it like blends okay with the color that I get when I hold these two together. So I'm really looking forward to that because I'm really trying to knit out of stash through the end of the year. That being said, I just added to my stash recently. I haven't talked about Twill and Print a lot because I haven't, I love their accessories, but I haven't knit with any of their yarn. But I just got some of their yarn. Sorry about the crinkling. I'm gonna cut it out. So I just got, this is their Buxom base, which is their DK weight. And this is 100% Supermush Merino. Sorry, I'm just reading the back of the label for the first time. So, go me. And this is their colorway Loverly. And I don't know if you can see, but it's this gorgeous, like it's barely, like it probably looks a little more purple next to my very mauvey purple cardigan, but it's like, it's barely a lavender pink mauve. Like it's almost a non-color. But it's gorgeous and it feels amazing. Oh my gosh. Like a little bit Where Have You Been All My Life. And I got 2 skeins of it. And this is going to become, with any luck, a Jaunty by Andrea Mowry. I haven't knit a ton of Andrea Mowry patterns. what I have knit from her has been accessories. So I've knit a hat by her, and I feel like I maybe knit something else by her, but of course I can't think of it. And it's not logged in my Ravelry, so it was maybe early in my knitting career where I was not documenting quite as much, or it was something I knit as a gift for someone, and again didn't document it. But yes, I would love to knit the Jaunty out of this, because I think it would just be so nice to wrap up in this. Can't wait. So that is very exciting. So that is definitely, along with the See My Vest worsted, that is like, it's climbing the charts, as they say, for what I'm going to cast on next. So yeah, we will see how that goes. Other things on my list. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Yes, it's another Andrea Mowry. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm going to get rid of this. The last thing on my to be knit list, my short list, is the Gib I sweater by Andrea Mowry as well. I watch her podcast, and she recently wore her Gib on a recent episode, and I was just like, like, I don't know how that particular pattern slid under my radar whenever it came out, which might have been last year or even the year before. But the texture of that and the fact that she knit it in a dark color, I was just like, I love that. I love everything about that. It's maybe also because one of the shows that I go back to every fall, I basically start at the same time in September every single year. I rewatch Shetland. And I quite literally, it doesn't matter where I've stopped previously, I go all the way back to season 1, and I just watch my way through. And to be fair, I always stop. I always stop sort of midpoint in the David Henschel seasons of Shetland, because of course, if you know, you know, and there is a David Henschel isn't on the Douglas Henschel, not David. I keep calling him David. Douglas Henschel left the show quite a few seasons ago now, but it's just like I can never quite make my way out of the Douglas Henschel seasons of Shetland, but I love Shetland. Such a vibe. And if you like mysteries, great. There's some super dark stuff in the later seasons, so just, content warnings about that. I don't want anyone picking something up on my recommendation and then being like, hey, you didn't say that it gets kind of dark. So I do like to just put that out there. But the knitwear, like truly, you can not really. You do need to, if you're gonna watch Shetland, watch it properly. But I'm like, you could almost watch Shetland on mute and just look at the sweaters, look at the knitwear. Because there's lots of it, right? Because Shetland is an island off of Scotland, and part of Scotland, and so it is very much a vibe. Lots of incredible landscape and incredible knitwear in that show. Anyway, all that to say is that when Andrea Mowry popped up in her podcast wearing what felt to me to be a very Shetland inspired looking sweater, I was like, well, here we go again, being heavily influenced by other podcasters / designers. So that is also on my potential to be knit list. However, as I previously said, I don't have a ton of worsted weight hanging around in my stash, and what worsted weight I do have, I don't have enough yardage of. So when I'm ready to commit to knitting the Gib, it might end up being either a little creative. I might be holding some yarns together if I find a good combination that gives me the right yardage for my size, or I might have to make a purchase. I'm going to try not to do that until beginning of next year if I can, mostly because I do have an Advent on the way, so I will be getting new yarn to open through December. And maybe, I don't know whether I'll document that on here. I definitely document it on my Instagram, so you can definitely follow me below and like kind of get ready for that. I know where it's coming from. So I shouldn't say I forget which Advent I ordered. That's not true. I ordered from Aberdeen Wool Co., their Tangled Poets holiday box, but they had multiple options this year, and I genuinely at this moment cannot remember which option I took. In previous years, I have gotten the full 24 mini skein box, but I feel like I didn't do that this year, so maybe I bought the 12 mini skein box. We're going to find out when it arrives, because it should arrive sometime in November. So maybe I'll talk about that when it arrives. That is it for today. That was a little bit rambly there at the end, so thank you so much for sticking around. If you like what you see here, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Also, I just have to super quick say, like, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I started this channel back in January, and I genuinely thought that towards the end of this year, I would be lucky if I had like maybe like 50 subscribers or just over that. Because I'm just a little guy. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed, because I'm just a little bit over 150 subscribers, which I know for a lot of podcasts, that is nothing. That is what they call a micro audience, or whatever the terminology is. I get that is a wildly small number compared to other YouTubers and podcasters. But thank you to everybody who is watching. Somebody gave a great analogy, and they're like, never be ashamed of your subscriber numbers or your view numbers, because like, think about it as putting that number of views or people into a room, into an auditorium, just to see you. So like, this many people who are not my family choose to spend their time with me, and that is absolutely wild, and I'm very grateful. So all that to say, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, if the algorithm brought me to you and you like what you see. So, all that being said, I hope that wherever you are feeling safe, you are feeling cozy, because it's cozy time, and until I see you in my next video, keep those stitches moving.